We'll get started very quickly. My name is Brielle Glatzel. I am a federal fiscal monitoring consultant on the Title I team, and I am here with my colleagues Julie and Connie today, who will go ahead and introduce themselves. Oh, you're muted, Julie. Catchphrase of the past 2 years.
Hi, everyone. I'm Julie Majerus. I'm a school administration consultant on the Title I team.
Connie, I believe you are also muted.
Thank you, Brielle. You can be our microphone indicator. Let us know when we're on and when we're off. My name is Connie Schomburg, and I'm an office associate for DPI. I'm also serving as the monitoring coordinator for the 21-22 ESEA monitoring guide or monitoring process.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kyle Peden. I'm going to be monitoring the chat today, and I am a Title I consultant as well. Glad to see everyone.
And I know besides all of the LEA representatives, I know we have some CSIS staff on. We also have Jonah Zuckerman join us, who's the Title I director. And then I do see a handful of other Title I consultants, as well as Abdallah and Amy and Emily, who are the other title consultants who are part of the ESEA consolidated monitoring process. So we can probably go ahead and get started. All right, so if you want to go ahead and navigate to the next screen, Julie. And so these are just some tidbits to know for using Microsoft Teams. Upon entering the webinar, everyone is going to have been muted. We ask that you do not unmute yourself. If you have a camera on your computer, you may turn it off by clicking on the camera icon that is at the top of your screen. If you wish to access full screen, you can click the 3 dots at the top of the screen and then select Enter Full Screen option. Please remember that we are going to be recording this webinar. Because of this, we ask that all questions be entered into the chat box or into the ESEA Monitoring Webinar Support Google document that you received in your reminder email this morning. If you would like to submit your questions in the chat, click the chat bubble that is available at the top of your screen. The chat panel will then pop up on the right side of the screen. We will also try to answer as many questions as we can at the end of the webinar. If we have more questions than we are able to accommodate, we will post those questions and answers along with a recording of this webinar on the ESEA monitoring webpage. Sorry, I'm juggling multiple screens. The purpose of the webinar is to explain to local educational agencies, or LEAs, the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, ESEA, monitoring process for this school year. The webinar will include information on the purpose of the ESEA consolidated monitoring, including an overview of the actual process. We will also go over steps and the timeline for LEAs, an overview of some of the ESEA requirements covered during the monitoring process, the difference between consolidated requirements and individual program requirements, such as those for Title I, II, III, and IV. We will also identify common challenges with requirements from years past. The webinar will end with an overview of the process for submitting documentation to the Google site set up for your specific LEA. So let's go ahead and begin with an understanding of the purpose of ESEA monitoring. Monitoring federal programs is conducted by DPI to ensure that all children have a fair, equal, and significant opportunity to obtain a high-quality education. Monitoring emphasizes accountability for using resources wisely. Per federal requirements, DPI has oversight responsibilities to ensure compliance as the state educational agency. Next slide. Skip. While monitoring is an oversight requirement for DPI, it is also a vital part of continuous improvement between the LEA and DPI. This is an opportunity for LEAs to self-evaluate their programs, share what is working, share what is not, and for DPI to learn more about the specific technical assistance and other resources that will help LEAs ensure that all students, particularly those from historically underserved groups, have equitable access to a high-quality education. DPI's monitoring process for ESEA is twofold, with universal and intensive monitoring. Universal monitoring is in place for all LEAs that receive ESEA funds. It includes technical assistance and support during the application and claiming processes in WISE grants. It also includes a review and approval process by DPI staff for all ESEA consolidated applications and claims submitted by LEAs. Intensive monitoring targets a greater level of support to a small group of LEAs selected from an annual risk assessment conducted by DPI. In addition to the universal support provided to all of the LEAs, DPI staff conduct desk reviews of documents and on-site visits with these select LEAs to provide more intensive guidance and support. All on-site visits for the 2021-22 school year will be conducted virtually. The LEAs selected for intensive monitoring does not mean that they have done anything wrong. It simply means that they have been identified as potentially needing more support and technical assistance from DPI based on the risk assessment process. DPI encourages LEAs to view intensive monitoring as an opportunity to seek support and guidance as appropriate. This webinar today focuses specifically on the intensive monitoring process. On the screen, we see the intensive monitoring process as an opportunity for all participants from both the LEA and DPI to engage in high-level professional development and technical support. These resources available on the screen will be available to you as you go through the process. The hyperlinks to these resources are available on the last slide of the webinar. First, we have the ESEA monitoring webpage. This webpage explains how LEAs were selected for intensive monitoring, what you need to do to prepare for monitoring, and what to expect during monitoring, as well as the timelines for this process. Each LEA will be assigned a DPI staff person who will serve as their team facilitator. You may contact this person with any questions that you have about any of the requirements or any part of the monitoring process itself. Additionally, this person will be reaching out to you over the next several months to support you through this process. And most importantly, there is the ESEA monitoring guidance document. DPI developed the ESEA monitoring guidance that outlines requirements under ESEA with statutory references. In each section, you will find the required documentation needed for the desk review, guiding questions that may be asked during your virtual visit, and rubrics that are used to assess compliance for each of the specific requirements. You should reference this document often throughout the year. The guidance is a useful guide for any LEA, even when they are not being monitored, and we recommend that all LEAs use this as a guide to understand the requirements under ESEA. You will see that the guidance is divided into different sections. The consolidated section, which covers all titles, and then specific sections for each of the requirements under Title I, Title II, Title III, and Title IV. When we look at this sample page, we can see how the different requirements are arranged in the monitoring guidance document. The requirement appears first at the section header and is followed by the statutory reference. Listed next for some sections are linked resources. These take you to DPI web pages or tools and guidance that help clarify the requirement and offer assistance for compliance. Required documentation for the desk review is listed next. This is the documentation you will upload to the Google site for DPI staff to review before the visit. We'll be sure to discuss the Google site later in this presentation. Next are the guiding questions for each requirement. These are the questions that DPI staff may discuss with you during your visit and serve to help you understand the information that is being sought. It is important to note that you do not load narrative responses to these guiding questions on your Google site. Furthermore, DPI may ask all of the guiding questions or may not. Please simply use these guiding questions to plan your responses for the visit. The rubric for each requirement appears last. This is the criteria that DPI staff will use to evaluate the level of compliance. We are requesting documentation for the current school year only. This means that you need to have your grants submitted and approved by DPI this fall. Additionally, if you join a consortium for Title III, Part A, you will need to make sure your district authorizer confirmed which consortium you will be joining in WISE grants.
Now for an overview of the monitoring process itself and the timeline. The monitoring process has 5 major steps for LEAs that occur through the year. They are notification, form a team, upload documentation, the visit, and the report. We'll review each step. Step 1 is already complete because all LEAs being monitored have been notified. So step 2 is form a team. We recommend that LEAs form a team or utilize an existing leadership team for the monitoring process. Team members may include administrators, school staff, and other stakeholders who can speak to your work in each of the ESEA titles, such as ESEA coordinators, the professional development director, data analyst, the district assessment coordinator, the homelessness liaison, the family engagement liaison, and the business managers. Forming a team will bring alignment to the process as well as provide an opportunity for building capacity across staff. For example, business managers learn program requirements while program staff learn the ins and outs of the business rules for grants. In addition to establishing a team with a broad array of expertise, you will need to establish an LEA team lead to serve as a point of contact with DPI. Once the team is established, you will need to begin gathering documents for the desk review and discussing answers to the guiding questions to prepare for the visit. So step 3 is gather and upload the documents to the Google site. DPI developed a Google site for each LEA, which we'll go over in more detail in a minute. It is a central hub for information and collecting documentation. You'll be able to upload documents up until 5 weeks before the visit. This gives DPI staff time to review the submitted documentation before the visit. Remember, you do not need to upload narrative responses for the guiding questions. The guiding questions are available for you as you prepare for the on-site visit. We'll provide more information on how to upload documents to the Google site at the end of the webinar. LEAs must ensure documents uploaded to the Google site do not include any personally identifiable information or PII of students. Please observe all requirements of FERPA and student privacy when developing and submitting your documents to the Google site. So step 4 is the visit. After the new year, a team from DPI will conduct a virtual visit with your LEA. Within the next few weeks, DPI will be in contact with you to confirm a date for this visit. The purpose of the visit is to gather additional information related to each of the requirements. It also provides you an opportunity to highlight promising practices and receive any additional support. It's important that LEA personnel who work with the ESEA programs participate in gathering and uploading required documentation, as well as speak in depth to the programs monitored during this visit. So we'd like to note a few things about the site visit and our approach. DPI aims for site visits to be a discussion. The monitoring process is not an audit. You know the unique needs of your local students and community, and this is an opportunity for you to share your successes, areas where it is known improvements are needed, and questions regarding implementation. Some requirements require no documentation submissions prior to the visit. During the visit, you should describe your protocols and processes for compliance with those sections, and the DPI's evaluation will be based on that conversation. During and after the visit, DPI consultants will provide resources to help your LEA with areas of improvement and follow up to determine whether further technical support is needed. This is also DPI's opportunity to learn from the on-the-ground experiences of LEA staff. to learn where we can improve our support to districts and to learn about successes as exemplars to share with other districts. So although the visit may feel like a lot of questions, the purpose is to learn how we can help and for our own continuous improvement of the processes and technical assistance we provide. If you find that this is not your experience, that the visits do not feel like a discussion but an inquiry, please send us that feedback through the feedback survey that you'll receive. So step 5 is the report. Approximately 6 weeks after the visit, DPI will provide your LEA with a report outlining areas of commendations or strengths, which requirements were met, and/or areas for improvement or corrective action. If corrective action is required, the report will identify the timelines to complete those actions. Please know, monitoring is not a pass-fail test. Corrective action simply means that DPI and the LEA have together identified areas where improvements are needed in order to more effectively serve the needs of all students. You will have questions, and that's what we expect. So please don't hesitate to reach out to any of the DPI staff who are part of the monitoring visit. Your DPI team facilitator is ready to provide guidance and support. Ask them at the outset so that you have plenty of time to do the work that's needed. As is our advice regarding your approach to monitoring in general, form a team and take the corrective actions one section at a time. Have a point person responsible for each corrective action. Once all the corrective actions have been addressed and therefore all the requirements met, DPI will send a letter closing out the monitoring process. Feedback from LEAs is the main driving force for continuous improvement to this intensive monitoring process, and we welcome it at any time. As a result of this feedback over the years, the focus of ESEA monitoring has evolved from basic compliance checks to reviewing the implementation of strategies for improving student achievement. For example, in response to LEA feedback, last year we reduced the number of documents to be reviewed before the monitoring visit by almost half. This approach allows DPI to provide support to LEAs to ensure educational equity for all students. This also provides LEAs the opportunity to work directly with the subject matter experts from the department in areas where more support is needed. This also provides you with more opportunities to leverage resources to address your goals and objectives effectively. We will provide you with a formal survey after the visit, but encourage you to connect with your team facilitator throughout the year so that we may continue to improve our system. So now we'll turn our attention to some of the requirements. The titles covered by each section are indicated at the upper right corner of each slide. We will not have time to discuss each and every requirement during this webinar. That would take a really long time. Instead, we will highlight requirements that LEAs have had challenges with in the past. And again, please do not hesitate to reach out to your DPI team facilitator if you're experiencing any challenges. The 2-page handout linked on this slide is a list of requirements that LEAs statewide identified as areas needing specific support during this past summer. The handout provides a list of resources to help with each requirement. Don't hesitate to contact your monitoring team facilitator for any questions.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and start with the consolidated requirements. These are requirements that span across Titles 1, 2, 3, and 4. Please note that there are 8 consolidated requirements in total as part of the monitoring process. The focus of Section 1 is the local needs assessment. LEAs are required to use student data, educator, school, and stakeholder data to identify needs and to evaluate the progress schools are making in addressing those needs. When conducting the needs assessment, it's important to consider the different data sources that are available and engage in a root cause analysis. A quick note regarding Section 1.3 is that the requirement is met already by having an ESSA LEA plan that it has been approved, as well as having submitted and approved your title applications. Section 2 focuses on stakeholder engagement. This section addresses the engagement of all stakeholders, including administrators, teachers, paraprofessionals, parents, community partners, and local business partners in making data-driven decisions about the educational programs and addressing the needs of all students. LEAs who were monitored in the past had challenges documenting the involvement of their stakeholders in creating a needs assessment and their involvement in decision-making processes. Think about the different ways you engage with your stakeholders and assess student and community needs, and how they have provided input to inform continuous improvement. Section 3 addresses professional learning. This section provides an opportunity for LEAs to identify the professional learning that is offered to the LEA and school staff to increase student achievement and to close achievement gaps. The professional learning plan should be aligned to challenging standards, grounded in evidence-based research, and address the needs identified. A common challenge has been evaluating the plan using student outcome data and educator practice data. A workbook for developing the professional learning plan is linked in the monitoring guidance for this section and provides step-by-step technical assistance for LEAs. Please note that the professional development for meeting the needs of English learners is required and should also be included in this plan, and will also be addressed then in this section. In prior years, the professional development plan for meeting the needs of English learners was often overlooked because it was buried in the Title III section. Section 5 covers the equitable participation of English learners in the educational program or in educational programs and services. In previous years, these requirements were tucked away in the Title III section and were often overlooked. All LEAs must show evidence that demonstrates that they have adopted and implemented the statewide standardized entrance and exit procedures. English language development standards used in tandem and aligned with content allow for a deep level of collaboration between the content area professionals and second language acquisition specialists to ensure that ELs build their English language proficiency, refine their academic use of English, and have equitable access to the content. This evidence should be at the classroom level with the inclusion of content objectives and language objectives in every room with English learners. Section 6 addresses the LEA process to ensure timely communication with parents in regards to their children's education around the topics of teacher qualifications, academic achievement, academic growth, and identification of additional supports. The requirement 6.4b specifically addresses the processes the LEA uses to provide information to parents and the public on federal, state, and local assessments. DPI has developed the template linked here, which an LEA can complete themselves and post to their webpage to easily convey this information to the public and meet this requirement. Section 7 ensures that LEAs engage families in the education of their children. Families must be included in the decision-making regarding the education of their own children and be able to actively participate in ongoing two-way meaningful communication. This is an important section that requires no documentation prior to the site visit. Please gather your team together beforehand to be prepared to provide a summary of the family engagement strategies and activities that are used in your LEA. In past years, LEAs have struggled to demonstrate authentic family engagement, including a two-way system of communication between the schools and families. Think about the strategies that your LEA uses, not only to convey information, but also to gain meaningful feedback and participation from families on an ongoing basis throughout the school years. Section 8 is fiduciary responsibilities. This section will require involvement with your business office staff, as it ensures that LEAs are carrying out the very many federal fiscal requirements. LEAs who did not include their business manager as part of the monitoring team in the past struggled with this section. Specifically, LEAs struggled most with requirements 8.3b and 8.6.
Okay, now we'll take a look at some of the requirements that are specific to Title I. Title I has the most individual requirements and includes section 9 through 16 of the guidance document. Again, we'll focus specifically on requirements where LEAs have had difficulties in the past. Section 9 covers Title I school-wide programs. This includes evidence or examples of school-wide plans. Please take note of the required components of the school-wide plan in requirement 9.1, and be sure your school-wide plans include all the required evidence. This section also includes a discussion regarding how the school-wide plan is communicated to stakeholders. This section is sometimes a struggle for LEAs, so think about the strategies that could be used to effectively communicate and gain input from stakeholders regarding the plan. Who are the stakeholders in your community and what is the best way to reach them? It's important to keep in mind that Title I school-wide plans can and should be integrated with other continuous improvement efforts in the school or district. The intention of the family engagement section is to ensure that LEAs and schools are able to make meaningful connections with families to best serve Title I students. Requirement 11.1 requires documentation of a family engagement policy. Please note that a board policy that requires that the LEA have a family engagement policy is not the family engagement policy itself. Previously, LEAs struggled to discuss how they engage families in the development, evaluation, and review of the Title I programs, and how the LEA supports professional learning to help staff fully engage families. The Title I Team's Family Engagement webpage, linked in the monitoring guidance, offers helpful strategies for meeting these requirements. ESSA implemented new requirements to ensure LEAs and local Head Start and early childhood development programs communicate to ensure successful transitions from early childhood to school. The webpage reviews these guidelines, and it's linked here in the slide, including the link to the handout that provides an overview of the core elements required in each formal agreement. The intention of Section 13 is to ensure that LEAs and schools have procedures in place to meet the academic and support needs for students identified as homeless, migratory, or living in neglected institutions under the law. There is no documentation required for the desk review for this section, so please prepare your team to discuss the procedures and processes in place to identify and meet the needs of these students. This section can be a common challenge for LEAs, so if you need assistance, please be sure to contact your team facilitator this winter. Additionally, we recommend including your homeless liaison or other relevant family liaisons or student liaisons in this part of the monitoring process. The intention of the educational stability provisions for students in out-of-home care is to minimize disruptions in education and eliminate other barriers for students in out-of-home care placements to support their educational success. Required documentation in Section 14 includes procedures for providing transportation for students and for enrolling students in school. The hyperlink at the bottom of this slide directs you to our webpage, where you will find templates and multiple resources to help you with this requirement. We'll now take a look at the requirements that are specific to Title II. Title II includes Sections 17 through 19 in the guidance. Section 19 requires all LEAs to have all instructional paraprofessionals in schools implementing a Title I school-wide program, and all instructional Title I paraprofessionals funded by Title I in targeted assistance schools be certified by meeting the hiring requirements. This was the requirement that LEAs had the most difficulty with in recent years. Please visit the website listed on this slide to learn more about the requirements for paraprofessionals and reach out to your DPI team facilitator for assistance with this required documentation. The requirements specific to Title III are covered by Section 20 in the guidance. The purpose of Title III is to help ensure that English learners attain English language proficiency and meet state academic standards through language instruction programming. Many of the LEAs found this section to be challenging, primarily because they receive very few Title III funds and join a consortium for services. If you need support with Title III, please reach out to DPI's Title III coordinator. Section 21 of the monitoring guidance provides information on Title IV, Part A, student support and academic enrichment. This highly flexible funding source is meant to provide all students with access to a well-rounded education, improving school conditions for student learning, and improving the use of technology in order to improve academic achievement and digital learning for all students. The Title IV requirement included in the intensive monitoring process focuses on the need to prioritize Title IV funds to support the schools with the greatest needs. And we just want to review again that when it comes to the monitoring process, here's a few things to keep in mind. First, take it one section at a time. Don't feel as though you need to upload all required documentation all at once or focus on large chunks of sections in a single day. Bring your team together and set designated times to work on each section. Full disclosure, even as reviewers, we at DPI tend to focus on reviewing one section or a set of sections at a time. If we didn't, it would be pretty overwhelming. So take it in chunks. Secondly, be sure to identify the requirements that don't have any required documentation and look over the guiding questions. Be prepared to discuss your LEA's procedures and processes for the specific topic. Lastly, remember that we want to learn from you. Monitoring visits help us hear about experiences, about implementation successes, and identify challenges and barriers for Wisconsin students. So this concludes our review of the requirements and common challenges. Please reach out to anyone on the team facilitating your visit if you're experiencing any challenges, and we'll connect you with the right subject matter experts. I'm going to turn it over to Connie now, who's going to walk us through the monitoring Google site and document submission.
Okay, can you all hear me?
Yep.
Perfect. Okay, first I want to thank Julie. I'm going to take about 10 to 15 minutes to go over how to use the monitoring Google Sites and how you will submit your documentation for DPI to review. For just the ease of the presentation, I created a video to go through the Google site and how to upload the documents. So you'll see me pausing and starting and pausing and starting the video. So there may be some syncing, but I'm going to try very hard to keep it in line. So I just want to give you an update, just let you know that that might happen. So I definitely recommend also going into your full screen if you're having trouble seeing this. So I'm going to try to share my screen now. Okay, can everybody see that?
Yes, we can see a screen with your.
Yep. Yes, and it's the email.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So to start things off, we at DPI have created an ESSA monitoring Google site for each LEA. I sent an email out last week that included the link to the website. All of the staff with access to their Google site should have received the email. If you didn't, please feel free to reach out to me. So if you click on the link, it'll take you to a page that looks like this. This is the, oops, this is what happens. Sorry about that. If you click on that link, it'll take you to the home page. It contains DPI contact information as well as logistical information for your visit once it's been scheduled, and useful links to help you through the monitoring process. I definitely recommend bookmarking the home page for easy access. The Google site also contains a condensed version of the requirements that you will see in the ESEA monitoring guidance doc, which is here. And it also contains links to the shared Google Drive folders, which is where you submit your documentation so DPI can review it. So getting back to the Google site, this is the home page, and if you look on the left side, there is a black bar that has different sections like the Consolidated Requirements Title I Part A that were built to mirror the ESEA monitoring guidance doc. Which I'm showing here. Oops. So if we go into the guidance document, again, please note that the condensed version of what you see in the guidance document is not what you see in the guidance document is a condensed version. It does not contain the rubric that's in the guidance document, nor the guiding questions. So you should not use this as a replacement for the guidance document. We provided this to help you when you're submitting your documentation, making sure you're hitting all of the needed requirements for your LEA. So we're looking at a section 1 here on the Google site. And if you scroll down to the bottom, you'll notice a folder listed if there's document that needs to be submitted. As you can see, there are 3 requirements for section 1, but 1.1 is the only requirement you need to submit documentation for. So there's a folder 1.1, and if you click that, it will actually jump you into the shared drive, hopefully here. And if you click on that, it'll take you right into the folder, where when you are ready, you would upload your documentation for the review. So moving on, I started getting into the fact that we created these shared Google Drive folders. The Google site serves as a central hub for everything related to the monitoring process, which includes where you actually upload the documentation into your shared drive folders. There is a folder created for each piece of required documentation listed in the ESEA monitoring guidance document, but we've removed folders for requirements that are not applicable to your LEA. And of course, if there's no required documentation, there is also no folder. So if you go to the home page, we're on the home page. Oh, shoot. And that was not planned. Does somebody want to take this back until I figure out how to get my screen back?
Connie, if you want to stop sharing screen, I'm just wondering if I can.
There it is. Okay. You'll have to forgive me. I just learned how to use this. And so I am having a few little issues with this. Okay, so let's start again here. If you're in the home page and you look, there's a Google Drive submission folder for your school district. And if you click on that link, it'll take you to the main hub. And from this main hub, you can go into, and it's also mirrors the table of contents in the guidance document. But if you click here, local needs 1.1, you're also into the needs assessment. What I'm really showing you here is that there's 2 paths to get into the same folder. Going through the Google site's condensed requirements in the left side of the home page, you can click into section 1 requirement, scroll to the bottom, click on the submission folder, and it'll take you right in. Otherwise, you can go into the main hub, click on local needs, and click into the requirement, and you end up in the same place in 1.1. So what about a section that doesn't pertain to your specific LEA? Let's say that section 4 doesn't apply to your LEA. If you click on section 4 in the Google site, you'll see that it's crossed out and there are no folders provided at the bottom. Also, if you go into the main folder that contains all the folders, you'll notice that there isn't a folder for section 4 either. So if you come across a requirement and there's no folder for it, that is most likely by design because it wasn't applicable to your LEA. If you think there's a mistake and you either come across a requirement that doesn't have a folder and you think there should be, or vice versa, there's a folder for a requirement you don't think applies to your LEA, just reach out to me and your facilitator and we can take a look at it because it's entirely possible we did miss something. So as far as uploading acceptable types, we really don't have a problem with this. We accept most file types, and although we do prefer PDFs if at all possible. And if you have any questions on the type of file you're trying to upload, again, please feel free to reach out to me and I can let you know and help you through it. So one thing that will be really helpful to make this process easier, especially for the monitoring team who reviews your documentation, is to label things carefully. So to start off, for anything you're uploading, please include the requirement number when naming the document. And I think this will take you, So I'm going to take this opportunity now, hopefully, I will not click off my page. I'm going to take this opportunity to demo how to upload to the Google Drive. Now, I'm sure most of you are familiar with using Google Drive, but I really want to briefly cover this just to be safe. So let's pretend we're uploading documentation for section 3, requirement 3.1. So if we go into the folder hub, there's folder 3. We go into 3.1, and if you're uploading a file, that's saved to your computer, it's super easy because you can just drag the file over and drop it into Google and boom, it's there. And then the reviewer can have access to it. Now, if there's a requirement for 3.1, but this time the file isn't on your computer, but it's on your LEA drive somewhere, in this case, I'm in my drive right there, and I have my document. And in this case, you'll want to use Google Drive's Move To function. So you right-click on, and you down to Move To, and then you find the folder you want to move it to. And you have shared with me. Okay, I'm gonna stop it right here. You'll be able to find the shared folder in the shared with me folder on your computer. We have a specific naming function for each of the folders, and it starts with a 4-digit LEA code, and then the school district's name and ESE8 monitoring submission folder. So you can see at the top, 0001 sample district, that's the folder that you'll want to go into. So it should pop up pretty close. So we click on that, find folder 3, and then move here. Now, one thing to keep in mind is you probably have your file saved in your drive for a particular reason. It might be shared with other people. So in the case you don't want to actually move that file, because then everyone who needs to access it won't know where it is. In this case, you can use Google Drive's make a copy function. So you go down, make a copy, keep going down, and it'll make an identical replica of the folder. And then you can go through the same, move to, and then find your folder in the, there we go, shared with me. And then move it over into the share drive under the correct folders. Okay. Now if you're uploading a large document like a handbook or manual, and you're trying to upload a document and you'd like it to be evidence for multiple requirements, it can be really difficult for the DPI reviewers to know what they are looking for and where to look for it. So I'm going to show you. Okay, so as an example, for section 1.1, I'm going to go into the folder, and we want to upload this really big document. And if you scroll up and down, you can see it's a pretty big document. There's a lot to go through. And it's going to be really hard for the DPI reviewer to go in and know exactly what they're trying to find, what you're trying to show them, and what page it's on. It's just going to create a lot of confusion, reading, and guesswork. The good news is there's a really easy way to prevent that. If you upload the document into Google, there it is. You can open it up in Google as a PDF. And you'll notice that up in the right-hand corner, there is a comment. You can add a comment to the document. You highlight on it, and then you can add a little comment on the side that the documentation for 1.1 is on page 35. You can add that as a comment. So it's just really nice to have that on the first page. It'll make it really easy for the DPI reviewer. When they open up the document, they can see right away what it is that you're submitting, and they'll know right away where they need to go to look at it. So just to reemphasize, please help us help you by taking care to label your documents with their appropriate requirement and add comments to help identify specific evidence contained inside a larger document. So that covers the use of the Google Sites and uploading your documentation. There's a slide that has a technical assistance document that basically covers everything I just went over. The technical assistance document can be accessed right on the home page, and it's also available on the DPI monitoring website. And of course, if you have questions or run across problems during the process or need me to go back through the presentation that I just did, you can also reach out to me. My contact information is also on the homepage, and it's also available in the emails that I sent you. And I am happy to help out in any way possible. So that rounds out the Google Site demonstration. I think we've got a few slides left, and Julie is going to wrap things up.
Thanks, Connie, and I'll share screen briefly and just share with everybody. Connie, is this correct? This would be the link to the technical assistance document?
Yes, that is.
And then we've got Connie's contact information there, because we do expect you might have questions, so don't be afraid to contact Connie if you're needing a review of how to upload those or label them correctly. Thanks, Connie, for emphasizing that. That does definitely help the reviewers.
And also, if you reach out to me and there is something that perhaps I don't have the answer to, I can always take the time to find the answer for you. So don't hesitate.
Thanks, Connie. So just one last friendly reminder, you do not need to upload the requirement, you only need to upload the required documentation to the Google site, just a reminder of that. You do not need to upload written responses to the guiding questions. So again, each section is going to have these guiding questions. Those are to help you in getting more context of what the requirements are, and especially to help you in preparation for the on-site virtual visit. Please utilize the resources available to you as you prepare for ESEA monitoring. Reach out if you need any assistance or have any questions throughout the process. And please remember, this is an opportunity for you to seek support from DPI and to highlight the great work you're doing in your LEA. Thanks so much, everyone. And I think we have time for questions.